Hi everyone, and welcome to video number 26 on Elizabethan England, coming right towards the end of the course now, ladies and gentlemen. And this one is about Sir Walter Raleigh and Virginia over in America. Virginia was actually named after Queen Elizabeth. She was known, remember, as the Virgin Queen, Virginia. So let's have a look at what this video is all about. Let's start with a terrible poem written by me. You know I'm a terrible poet. I'm a terrible singer. Here we go. Walter Raleigh, with Queen Elizabeth he was very pally. Potatoes, tobacco, a puddle and a cloak. His voyage of discovery sailed to Roanoke. I know, terrible. I apologise for my awful poetry. Now the poetry's bad, but some things there are true historically. Now, a puddle and a cloak. There's a myth about Sir Walter Raleigh that he put his cloak down across a muddy puddle so that Queen Elizabeth wouldn't get her shoes dirty when she walked across. Now, that probably never happened. But the important thing is that Queen Elizabeth and Walter Raleigh were close. He was a favourite of hers. I'll come back to that in a minute. He was also linked with bringing the potato, the spud, to England. Now, Spain had already brought the potato back, but Raleigh's linked with the potato for England. He's also linked with something not as healthy, maybe, bringing tobacco. So tobacco, potatoes, they are linked with Sir Walter Raleigh. And the final line of the poem there, his voyage of exploration or discovery sailed to Roanoke Island, just off the coast of what is now Virginia. So there is some historical accuracy there in my terrible poem. Let's start with the fact that Queen Elizabeth liked Walter Raleigh. She did not want him to go to America. It was risky. Now, he was a brave adventurer, he'd been on other voyages, but she put her foot down and said, no, I don't want you to go. Now, maybe he was a little bit upset. Maybe he thought, oh, I'm being picked on. Maybe he had a chip on his shoulder. Oh, sorry, potato, chip on shoulder. No, sorry. No more jokes. Well, maybe one or two. But she did stop him from going. I suppose you could say all his hopes and dreams of adventures had gone up in smoke. Tobacco, smoke. No, that's it now. That's it for a while. Now, when he was stopped from actually sailing, he was given the task of organising and planning the expedition, the voyage of exploration. And I'll come to that in a minute. First question though, why? Why would English sailors want to go and maybe land in America? Now, there are a variety of reasons here. Their aims. What did they want? Well, the first thing they wanted to do, maybe go and create a base, an English base in the New World where they could go and attack Spanish ships, the treasure ships, remember, the trade ships near the West Indies. So to attack the Spanish was one reason. A second reason, if they went and colonised part of America, that's stopping Spain or France from colonising. So they are challenging the power of Spain and France. They're trying to establish the power of England, bring new resources, bring new minerals to England, the new resources. Also, bring land to England. If England is named, or Virginia is named after Queen Elizabeth, it's increasing her prestige, increasing her position against Spain, the enemy, remember. And also, maybe open up new trade markets for England. Remember, because of the problem in the Netherlands, Spain was controlling the Netherlands, Antwerp, English wool wasn't being allowed to trade successfully with Europe, so they needed to find other trade markets. So they're the reasons why it was considered a good idea to go on these voyages to try and find new lands over in America. Now, I said that He'll come later. I said that Raleigh was in charge of the planning. Let's get the Queen off. There we go. Just Raleigh, Sir Walter Raleigh. Now, yes, he was in charge of planning, organising. Now, what did you need? Well, first of all, for a successful voyage and then to establish a settlement, you needed people. Probably about 300 people. Men, women, families. You needed a variety of skills, a different variety of jobs. Farmers, soldiers, hunters, builders. People who could go there and work hard and create a settlement. You needed ships. Now, it's probably no good just one ship going. You needed a number of ships, maybe 5, 6. The ships would need to be quite big to carry enough supplies for the journey across the Atlantic Ocean, and also to carry enough supplies for things that you'll need when you arrive. You would need seeds to plant when you got there so that you got food. You would need to set off at the right time so that you can do the journey, arrive, plant your seeds, and then harvest them before the winter. Fresh water supplies, salt, weapons, tools, all of this would need to be planned. And of course, one of the main things, money. Queen Elizabeth did get involved, and she provided a ship at about £500. Others of her Privy Council. Remember, Walsingham, he also got involved. Raleigh himself got involved. So money was needed. Now, remember, Raleigh was not allowed to go. His job instead was to go round and organise support. I suppose you could say his job was to rally support. That is the last joke in this video, and I bet you're very pleased. Sorry about that. Now, let's get down to the serious stuff. The first voyage, okay, because there were 2. Raleigh was involved in 2. The first attempt, 1585, 5 ships sailed off. Now, 5 ships, maybe that's enough. But they only had just over 100 men, 107, 108 men. No women. It was all men. So there's a problem straight away. Led by 2 men, Grenville and Lane. They landed at Roanoke Island. Grenville was in the biggest ship, the Tiger. Now the Tiger, because it was the biggest, it had most of the supplies. It had the seeds. It had the meat. It had the vegetables. It had perishable foods protected by the salt. Unfortunately, the harbour where they landed wasn't very good, and the Tiger hit rocks and was damaged. And of course the seawater came in, and the seawater damaged the seeds. So straight away, the first attempt isn't going to succeed because of the bad luck of the Tiger losing their supplies. Grenville went straight back to England to try and bring more supplies. Lane remained, and Lane started to build the settlement on Roanoke. 1585, 1586. Sir Francis Drake, I told you I'd come to him. Remember on his visit, on his journeys across the world? Sir Francis Drake, 1586, visited Roanoke, and he found Lane and the settlement. Most of the colonists decided, whoa, this is terrible. This is too much like hard work. This is not going to succeed. And most of the colonists returned with Drake to England. So the first attempt to colonize in Virginia was a failure. But we don't give up. No, no, no. 1587, the second attempt. Now, was this one any more successful? What do you think? Of course it would be. Oh, I wonder if there's going to be any trouble here. If so, I'm well prepared. I've got my sword. Now, the second attempt. This time over 150 people. So at least more people are going. So that's a step in the right direction. 17 women, 2 of whom were pregnant, and some children. They are taking families. Maybe they've learned their lessons from the failure of the first attempt. Okay? Led by a man called White. Again, they land at Roanoke. Again, White went straight back for supplies. And here's the issue. When he got back to England, 1587 towards 1588, can you remember what was happening in 1588? Bonus points if you've said fighting, the Spanish Armada. England was preparing for the Spanish Armada. They were putting all their efforts, concentrating all their ships on the Spanish Armada. Therefore, they didn't have any time or supplies or resources to think about the settlement over in Roanoke. Therefore, help and supplies for the second attempt was delayed by the Spanish Armada. When supplies arrived, 1590, the settlement had disappeared. All that was left was a sign, and on it said CRO. Now there was a nearby Croatan Island, and they thought maybe they'd gone there, but the settlers were never found. It's a mystery even today. So the second effort also failed. Why? Reasons. Why did they fail? Well, there's many reasons. Poor planning. Raleigh would have to take some of the blame for that. It was his job to plan. Maybe not enough people went. They certainly didn't have enough money. And if you don't have enough money, then you haven't got enough supplies. On the first one, they left in April 1585, allowing for the journey across the Atlantic Ocean. That was too late. By the time they'd arrive in Roanoke, they won't be able to plant their seeds in time for the harvest, so they wouldn't have enough food. That would be a major, major failing. And of course, they also had the bad luck of the Tiger hitting the rocks, and a lot of the supplies on the Tiger were lost. The seeds were destroyed. On the second attempt, the delays to help prepare for the Armada, replacement supplies did not reach Roanoke until everyone had disappeared. Disease, starvation. It was hot, it was humid, there were mosquitoes, the food rotted. All of these would cause problems for the settlements. Now I have my sword, and I hinted maybe there was a bit of trouble. You got to remember, when people landed in America from Europe, whether it was Christopher Columbus, Drake, or Raleigh's expedition, there were people already there. The Native Americans, the Native American tribes were already there. It would be very important to establish good relations, friendly relations with the locals, because they would be able to help. And here was a problem, because the settlers annoyed the Native Americans. They kept on saying, "Oh, where's you help us now, give us the food." And the Native Americans eventually got a little bit annoyed and angry about this. And in the end, there was trouble. One of the Native Americans' leaders, a man called Wingina, Wingina, it turned to violence. And some of the colonists, the people from England, some of them, a man called Howe, was attacked and killed. But then the colonists say, "We want revenge." So they then went and attacked a Native American tribe. The only problem was they attacked a friendly tribe who weren't involved in the trouble. So that then upset them. Can we see that relations with the Native Americans would have been very important to get right? And the colonists didn't get them right. Finally, many of the colonists were inexperienced. They argued with each other. They weren't prepared to work hard enough. They thought, "Oh, he can do that job, I'm doing this job." They didn't work together as a team. So put all of those together, poor planning, setting off at the wrong time, not enough supplies, losing supplies, the delay in the preparation because of the Armada, bad relations with the Native Americans, colonists not organised, not working hard, not working together as a team, and both attempts failed. So, what might you be asked in the exam? Well, there's the straightforward question, the very simple one. Describe two features of the attempts to colonise Virginia in the 1580s. You could talk about Raleigh, the planning, the preparation, the voyages, the landing. Okay? Or a more difficult question. Explain why the attempt to colonise failed. Now, I've just talked about that. They would give you two clues there in that particular question. And the two clues that, let's say they say colonists and Wingina, the Native Americans. Yes, you could write about them and explain why they led to the failure. But you can write about some of the other things. Lack of planning, not enough money, not enough supplies, setting off too late, the impact of the Armada. Any of those would add to an answer there. So, Walter Raleigh and his potato. Now, let's have a think about the significance of what we've looked at today. Both attempts ended in failure. There is no doubt about that. But in history, there's often a but, ladies and gentlemen. It set the foundations, and as time ticked by into the next century, into the 1600s, yes, England did get involved in colonies in America. Also, despite some of the problems, the voyages actually made profit because they captured some Spanish ships. So a profit was made for all of those investors, which would encourage them maybe to carry on investing in voyages. It showed there was a potential for new trade routes, new crops. So it did suggest better things in the future. It increased knowledge of navigation, of different minerals that they found. So, although you could say in the short term, both attempts really were not successful, in the long term, it was sort of setting the scene for Britain's future empire. It was showing that trade and travel and transport could be something worth getting involved in, longer term. So don't dismiss it as a total failure. It was actually significant for the long-term benefits of the country. So although Queen Elizabeth didn't necessarily see the benefit, other kings and queens did. As we moved into the 1700s and British power spread throughout the world. So that is Elizabethan England. We've completed the course. I'll do one more video for you, ladies and gentlemen, where we'll look in detail at the exam. And hopefully I'll break it down for you, talk you through the different questions so that you are ready to do your best and really do well in the exam. As ever, I hope it's been useful. I'm now going to peel some potatoes and eat some chips. All the best now. I'll speak to you soon. Bye now.